Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this discussion cast about Inside. Inside is coming to PlayStation 4 on August 23rd, which is right around the corner. Inside, the indie hit that was once previously thought to be an Xbox One exclusive on console, had a surprise trophy pop over on the PlayStation. And for all of you PlayStation gamers out there that follow PlayStationVideoGames.com, we wanted to give you our reactions and impressions to make sure that after you play it, you can come and listen to us, your favorite video gamers, talk about it. Joining me on this ride is none other than Nathan. Nathan, how you doing?
Good. Yourself, sir?
Pretty good. Pretty good. So I am a bit more removed from Inside than you are. I played it almost a month ago. Nathan, when did you finish it?
Yesterday. Started and finished.
I'm really excited to play this or to talk this with you. When I finished it, I so badly wanted to talk about Inside with you in particular, because I do think out of all of the gamers on the Play Some Video Games staff, I feel like you're, maybe the deepest, like when it comes to, when it comes to thinking, like you seem to really get into self-evaluation.
I don't know. I thought Cal's pretty deep too.
That's true. That's true. And maybe we'll get to hear his impressions after it hits PlayStation. But I'm really excited. I'm really excited for this. When I finished it, I also wanted to talk to somebody about it. And I kind of feel like you might be in that same boat. I've already reviewed the game for PlayStationVideoGames.com. I gave it an 80, an 8 out of 10 for those on the 10-point scale. So let's go ahead and get into it. It's a platformer, left to right jump button, very simple control schemes. It's a follow-up to Limbo, the successor to Limbo, the Smash Xbox arcade indie hit from yesteryears. Playdead Studios. In my review, I mentioned gorgeous art style, which it definitely has. So let's go ahead and get into it, Nathan. What do you want to talk about, buddy?
So first off, I just like this. This felt a lot like Limbo, and Limbo was a great game. Have you played Limbo?
I have. Very interesting. When I was doing my review, I reached out to a lot of our followers on Twitter asking them what they would like me to talk about. And a lot of them asked me to talk about comparing it to Limbo. In particular, I had several followers say that they did not like Limbo and wanted to know if they didn't like Limbo, should they play Inside? How would you answer that question?
I would say if you didn't like Limbo, then you probably won't enjoy Inside.
Wow, I took the opposite approach. I thought I told them if you didn't like Limbo, I think Inside's a better game, and I think it, in a lot of ways, it improves on the things that I personally didn't like about Limbo. And I said you should definitely play Inside. I also had a lot of people ask me which one they should play first, and I absolutely believe that if you haven't played either one of them, you should play Inside before you play Limbo.
I would agree with that.
Okay. So what do you want to talk about, having just come off the ending of the game?
So, obviously, ladies and gentlemen that are listening, this is a spoiler discussion, so we're going to be all over the place with spoilers probably here in the short term. So if you haven't played it, I would recommend that you experience it. It took me maybe 4 hours at most to play through it yesterday, and I was able to get all the achievements and everything, so I did everything in this game pretty much within that time frame. So the thing that strikes me most about this is the art style. It is very much noir in a way, with that kind of color palette, where it's just kind of darker and just muted colors. There's no real vibrancy, I guess you could say, in this game. But that lends it to the actual story that they're telling. This is a very dark story in a lot of ways. This is a story that when you take it as a whole and you're just trying to figure out what's going on, you start in the beginning running from some authorities of some kind. You don't really know, and it's never really told you. Nothing at all is ever told to you in this game. This is all just for interpretation, obviously, but this is an interesting take on storytelling, in my opinion. It's also very simplistic controls, as Donnie alluded to. It's very easy to figure out how to play this game, though, but it did take me a couple minutes to figure out, I have to knock this thing over. Like in the very first level, you had to knock over a refrigerator or something, and it took me a couple minutes to figure out that I could even interact with the refrigerator. So it's very interesting how they don't tell you anything about how to play this game. Literally, there's no on-screen HUD, there's nothing. You just start, and then you go. They assume that you know how to play a side-scroller, and that's fine. It's a great game from that aspect. Donnie, you said that you would give this game an 80. So what I was wanting to do is kind of jump to the end and have a little bit of a discussion about that ending. And I'm wondering if you're of the same mind as me, is that I loved this game up until, let's say, like the last chapter, I guess you could call it. That last chapter just kind of felt out of place for the rest of the story, in my opinion. What did you think?
I had that same take on it, but it happened for me before the ending. It happened really when you dive underwater, you go down to this extraterrestrial place and you drowned, and then you come back to life.
That was weird. Yeah, that was the start of the weirdness. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where I was like, oh, okay, to me it felt like a cop out, and it wasn't up until that point. Inside felt really grounded, and you felt like you were maybe on a mission, and you were encountering this stuff, and then it just started to go off the rails, which is okay. It's a video game. But it kept going off the rails from there. And yes, my biggest problem with the game is it's not just its ending, but more or less how the game leaves you. The entire game is just open to your interpretation, which is great for people that want to sit down and debate and talk about it. And I think that has a lot of insides values that you can go and talk about it with friends. But for me, to me, it just felt like a video game, kind of like an older video game, almost like an homage. When video games are kind of first being developed and sold as mass products, a lot of times they were just video games, they didn't have any extra meaning or deep dive or some adventurous narrative. A lot of times they were just video games. You just played them because they were video games. You moved graphics on the screen and you enjoyed it and it was fun and that was it. And if you got something out of it, that was fine, but it wasn't necessarily there. I felt a lot of that with Inside. I kind of feel like they just made a video game, and all of this deep, metaphorical Orwellian discussion that is out there is just, people interpreting it. I don't necessarily think that any of it was put in place by a developer on purpose. I mean, there's a lot of hints there, especially with the ending. As you mentioned before, there's no hand-holding in the game. So, you start off as this boy. You have no idea what he's doing. He's just traveling left or right. You're going through fields, and you go through some factories. You encounter some very corporate, trying to think of a word here, Nathan. Entities, yeah. Like there's a lot of conformity. Everybody looks the same. Everybody acts the same. Everybody moves the same, except for this little boy who's different. And then as you keep progressing, you get into this factory where you get to see different people. They look like scientists, and all of a sudden you end up in this giant blob of body parts that are moaning, and then you break out of the facility and you sit out on the sunrise. I didn't do I didn't complete all of the achievements. I didn't get the 1,000 gamer score. I did see the alternate ending, which is I just watched it on YouTube after I finished it, and yeah, that didn't answer any other questions for me. If anything, that just asked a lot more. So because I'm further apart from it, this is something that I absolutely thought of. I'm a month away from having played it, more or less. I do feel like the further I get away from it, almost the more critical I felt about it. Halfway through this game, I was like, oh, this game is game of the year. I'm so much enjoying it. And even when I finished it, I was like, oh, that's neat. It made me think. And then like a week went by and I was like, I don't really know if I like that. And then the further I get along with it, it's like, I really didn't like that. Now it bothers me. When I listen to everybody give their theories on it, I'm like, this is, all of y'all are putting a lot into this. I don't think there's that much there. But go ahead. I mean, what do you think about that ending?
So, since I just finished it yesterday, I haven't really had opportunity to listen to anybody's theories or anything, because I was avoiding spoilers because I obviously wasn't buying games or anything. This game was generously purchased for me by one of my friends online. I just want to thank him. He's a listener, so thank you, sir. But I did want to say that this game, obviously I went into it with the only expectation that I had is that it got super high reviews. It's got 10 out of 10. It got, any outlet that you go to, it was a very, very positive score. And, looking at the game from what we did play, it feels like this is a game that is very much, I think this is going to be Playdead's MO from now on out, right? Their Limbo felt like this, but I want to say it right off the front. I think Limbo is a better game than Inside, honestly. I think that the puzzles are more unique in Limbo. In Inside, it's a little bit more subtle. It's more subdued. In Limbo, you kind of have something that you're going towards. You're trying to find out what happened to, I think it's your sister. And there's a lot more tense moments. There were some tense moments in this game. There are moments that make you think too. I don't think that the people that chase after you and shoot at you kill you, because it almost looks like there's like a tranquilizer dart that sticks out of you if you get hit, and then it doesn't look like they kill you if they catch you. It feels like they just knock you out. But you're a kid in this game, and so you want to make sure that you take care of this kid. And there were some real points of, I don't know if terror is the right word, but worry for this character, because these dogs are coming. What do I do? I got to climb up this fence. I got to figure out a way out of these situations. It was very tense for those moments, and it worked really well. The sound design in this game is superior to any to a lot of sound design games, right? If you listen to this game with headphones, it amplifies it tenfold. And so what I was doing, I started playing without headphones on, and then I put them on halfway through. And you hear a lot of little details in this game that are really cool, little aspects. And when you get to the moaning and stuff, you can just kind of hear all that with the big blob. And you hear individual kind of voices come out of it. But as you alluded to, there's a lot of interpretation with this game. This is a game that is about conformity, really. This is a game that you look at it, and it's a commentary on, this kid, obviously, I think he's wearing like a red shirt through most of the game, and everybody else is just this pale white. It's just this pale imitation, and very, very much what you would see in like a sensory deprived dictatorship, we'll say. So if you look at it from that aspect, and the message that they're trying to say, it gets kind of muddled a little bit, because you have this kid here who's trying to escape from this. Then he finds himself becoming, part of this design creation, this monster, I guess you could call it. That's a monster from anybody's perspective, from, the people in the game, and even from your own personal perspective as playing this game. Like, what did I become? And then it gets kind of muddled in that he becomes the white thing without any sort of identification, and becomes part of this collective, part of this body of mass. And that's how the game ends, up to the point where he dies, like you said, and even to the point before he gets into the body. You're curious about what's happening. You're curious about his character. You're wondering what's happening with this whole solution, and you never get those answers. Now, I don't know if I just didn't pick up on those answers as I played through the game or not, but I don't think they presented them at all. But I feel like the message that they were going for in this game was a concise message about 80% of the way through it, and then you get to that point where your character drowns, and then you come back to life, and then from that point on, you hit it on the head. It's a different narrative completely. The puzzles got a little more interesting at that point. There was one in particular where you had to control it got really trippy. You had to control the water to go up and down. You're like, man, what is happening here? It took my brain a couple minutes to kind of reset, to figure out, okay, this is what I got to do to get past this room. But, from a story perspective, I felt like this was I don't know if this is the ending that they really wanted to give us, If if that's the case, this is a polar ending from where we began. And it just doesn't feel like the message is clearly presented that they wanted to tell. What do you think? Do you think that from the message that we get at the beginning, with the kid running away, with him being individualized in some ways, and then for him to be able to control some of these people's, with his little mind power or whatever, to the end with him being part of this collective and just being part of this mass, was the story complete to you in that sense?
No, not at all. Complete is the perfect way to describe it. Incomplete. And I feel like it was by design. I mean, Playdead's been working on this game for 6 years, since Limbo came out. And I feel like 6 years is plenty enough time to at least determine your narrative beats. And I feel like the open ending was purposeful. I believe that they wanted to create something. One thing I thought about I didn't put a whole lot of thought into it. When you asked to do an Inside discussion, one thing that I thought about is Inside gets away with something that I think only an indie game can get away with. Would you agree with that? I mean, I feel like a lot of indie games have these, I don't want to be detrimental, but like they do these artsy things, yeah, almost risky things that other companies I don't think would get away with. If Call of Duty's narrative had just like some random ending, like people would riot, people would be really angry. But when something like Inside does it, people get into it and then they discuss it and they prop it up. And I'm not saying that it shouldn't be propped up. I do love. I mean, I gave the game an 8. It's not that I didn't like it. I love the game, but narratively speaking, I honestly just didn't pry away from it. I get the conformity theme. There's a like a loneliness theme there too. But even then, like I honestly feel like maybe I'm trying to extract something that maybe wasn't necessarily meant to be there. I agree with you in the sense that with Limbo, I think Limbo first off was a harder game than Inside is. Limbo was way more challenging. Also, with all the death sequences and the platforming, it was also like more arcadey. It was kind of meant for you to die, and you could die different ways, and you could kind of see it. Where there's not a lot of that here. The deaths in Inside, though, are more not jarring because they're not as egregious as Limbo's, but they're more impactful and meaningful because one, I didn't experience as many. Two, I mean, one of the times I got caught, the dude like just choked me to death, and that's a weird visual to see because you are playing as a child. I also got killed by some dogs that like broke my neck.
Yeah, so definitely think the dogs killed you. I'm not sure about the humans, but the dogs definitely probably killed you.
Oh, the human killed me. I got killed by one of the humans for sure. That really happened. Right before I jumped on the submarine, I got caught, and the guy came out. So I mean, in that regard, I liked it. The puzzles with Inside, I thought were fantastic. Some of them were obtuse. The one in particular that really kind of it didn't stump me, but the one that really made me think was the one with the chickens, with the little chicklets, the little hatchlings that you had to kind of like get you to follow you to jump into the little machine, like very at the beginning.
That was the first one or one of the
yeah,
first
I know,
ones.
like right at the beginning. Like that one took me like maybe 20 or 30 minutes. Like I did not know what I was supposed to be doing. The rest of them, some of them were great. Like the one where you had to activate the elevator and go up and down different floors and get the different, I don't know what you call them, zombies or bodies or drones. I kind of thought of them as like drones or robots. Mm-hmm. To get them all onto the counter to get the scale to the right number, I thought was great. And the one big reason why I really enjoyed that one is that you had visual cues in that puzzle that if that really weren't present through the rest of the puzzles, but in that one, you probably couldn't have got there, if you didn't hit the, if you didn't get to the light. Like without that light, that would have been extremely difficult. But because they had the light, it made it very easy. The puzzles were great. It's not as hard. I think it's more welcoming, which is why I would absolutely recommend Inside to anybody that hadn't played either or. But I will say that I really enjoyed the flow of this game. Outside of that beginning, and that could just be me being a terrible gamer, like not being able to get through the chicken puzzle. But outside of that one, like I really kind of cruised through this game. Nothing really stumped me a whole lot. And while I didn't chase the 1000 achievement, I did get, I think, 5 or 6 of those secret orbs, throughout my first and only playthrough. So I mean, I didn't think it was incredibly difficult. I'd put it like just right. It was really good. I enjoyed the non-hand holding. It very much reminded me of like a Mario. This game taught you how to play it as you played it. It taught you how to jump, and it taught you how to climb, and then it taught you how to move crates, and then it taught you how to move the bodies. And I really enjoyed that aspect of it. But wrapping all back to your first question, no, I definitely didn't feel like I had any complete narrative. I don't think I had any narrative, to be honest with you, Nathan. To be 100% honest with you, I've heard some really crazy theories on this game. One person I heard literally said that there was like a flood, a la like a Wind Waker, and like there were multiple floods, and like these new factories were built and destroyed in the flood, and then the flood came, and I was like, I don't know where this person's going, because at one point there's like water on the ceiling that you can jump into and swim, but you fall out and then you walk on the bottom. Like, I don't know where he was getting this stuff from, but I just don't think there was anything logical there. Like everything that I was kind of experiencing was more sci-fi-ish. You just had to take it for what it was. that's kind of how I approached the game. I was like, all right, well, this is the way this world is. You know, like this doesn't like my real world physics don't apply to this world, like I thought it did. The first quarter of the game, the first third of the game, I kind of thought, well, this is a real world type of interpretation. You know, we're getting this whole, um, you know, don't conform to the man and the machine type of experience. And then, like I said, as it started to go off, I was like, all right, well, that's all out the window now. Now I'm just playing a video game.
So, to talk about the where this is coming from type solution, you know, where you're mentioned like the flood and all this other stuff, this weird things. I'm attributing to this a little bit because I just recently watched the Stranger Things show on Netflix, and it kind of has some sci-fi elements to it too, where you have like an quote unquote evil corporation with a lab experiment kind of thing happening, where you kind of run into that here in this game too. So there were a few things that I kind of mingled with the two of them, but no, I don't get anything overarching out of this. People can attribute whatever they want to the story because it's open for that, and we've mentioned that a few times. But people also want to look into things and just kind of come up with the most craziest things, right? Because you see the most craziest things and then it becomes true, it's like, oh yeah, look at that. The developer might hear that and be like, well, it's whatever you want it to be, and that's fine. I'm fine with the game having that open interpretation ability. But you mentioned before, like, do indies get a pass for having this kind of openness? Do they get a pass for not having a closed situation? Like, if you were to go into a Call of Duty, like you said, and you start the last mission and you just start shooting and the screen goes white and you still hear shooting going on, is that the ending? Did you win? What happened? And in this game, obviously, at the end, you kind of roll out into the sunset and you just kind of watch the credits start to come up. It's a very artful move. It's very heavy, I guess you could call it. I would love to hear, and I'm sure when this comes out on PlayStation, I want to hear Kyle's thoughts on it, because, I mean, he might look deeper into it, too, and just kind of see what that is, because he is definitely an indie kind of guy, I feel. He's played a lot more indies than I have, for sure, but I like the way that they present on this game. Like, I come at this game not knowing anything at all, just that it's very thought-provoking. So I go in there, I play through the game, I play through the puzzles, I'm taking into account all this stuff as I walk by, how people interact with you and how you interact with the environments. And then all of a sudden you get towards the end of it there, and you run up and you look out in the one of the last minutes that you're as a boy, you look out with everybody, they're all running towards the observation room, we'll call it, and then everybody sees you and they don't care, they're just looking at that thing in there. Why did it change to now nobody cares that you're there? It's a weird thing, but it's a game that, as an indie, that's a negative word that sometimes is thrown around. Oh, it's an indie, it's this or that, it's not real. It is definitely a real game. This is a great experience on a great use of the medium of the platform. I could say that if I watched a 2-hour-long movie, I might have more impact to this, but I actually think that because I was controlling the character, I was getting him away from the dogs, I was getting him away from the people that were chasing him, away from the little thing that was swimming around. I don't know about you, but this game did to me what a lot of games do, where if I'm in underwater ever, I get very worried about my character dying, because I feel like it affects me when a character is underwater in any game and they start to do the little trying to breathe sound. It gets to me, man. That gets to me more than anything else all these days. But I think that it's a great experience, and if you are curious about this game, then play it. People have commented that the $20 price point is ridiculous for a 4-hour-long game.
No.
I don't think that's a problem at all. I mean, it's just one of those things where they put a lot of time into this. You said they spent 6 years putting this game out. That's longer than they spend on most, Call of Duty games. They don't spend 6 years on a Call of Duty game or on a Madden game. You're giving them 60.
Those teams are much larger than Playdead. But you're right.
Right. And I mean, you can watch the credits. Most games, if you watch the credits, it goes on and on and on and on, right? Mm-hmm. And in this, the credits are maybe a minute long of credits, and it holds on those scenes so you can see those people's names. It's a small team, as you said, but it's definitely worth the $20 price point, I think. I paid $22 to go see Jason Bourne a few weeks ago. That was a terrible movie. I want my money back.
I like artsy. It's been long debated, are games art? And some people say yes, some people say no. This
They
game
are.
is definitely a great example of how artistic this medium can be. And that's exactly the best way probably to receive this, is to go into it with an open mind, to take your own interpretation from it and then leave it there. There's no need to try to convince anybody else to see it your way or anything like that, because this game, there's no answer. There is no answer to this game, and it's one of the I'd say maybe few games that you can experience where there is no answer. Like everybody, anything you made up right now, if you tried to pass it, well, if you try to say, well, this is it's a prequel to Limbo and The Boy, and I mean, you could totally get away with it because there's just no answers here. So I like that about it. I really do. I actually don't think I think it's very interesting that somebody set out to make something like this. Yeah, I mean, the sci-fi elements of it, especially at the end, there are plenty reasons to suspect, like how you went from being chased by people, and if somebody saw you, that they chased you and tried to shoot at you and tried to kill you, tried to grab you, and then all of a sudden you're just walking around this facility and tons of people. That didn't make sense. The underwater parts were probably my favorite of the entire game. I don't share the same tension I do. Now, I shared that tension when that little girl showed up. I remember, let me show you this. The first time she appeared, I just stopped my little submarine and just looked at her. I didn't do anything. I wanted to interact with her. I didn't perceive her as a threat. And then she swam up to my submarine and broke open the glass, pulled me out, and killed me. Mm-hmm. Did that happen to you, or were you immediately worry of her?
So the very first time you get that little glimpse of her, like something just kind of runs by the screen and it's dark, you don't know what it is. I was a little, I wouldn't say I didn't jump, but I was like, oh, there's something else. But yeah, whenever she was around, not when you were in the submarine, I didn't feel like I was as worried about her when I was in the submarine. But when you were trying to do the puzzles where you had to jump in and out of the water and they got close to you,
I was very tense. I was very tense in that one. I was actually about to go there. She was great. What a great character. Like her inclusion, just her alone, her inclusion kind of made or break the game for me. Like I could honestly tell you that if you just took her out of the game and played the same game, I wouldn't feel the same about it. Because that middle section would have felt very boring without her. It would have felt like it dragged on a bit. But with her, it does give you that sense of tension and excitement. As does that concussion machine.
Yeah, that was interesting.
That was awesome. Like, you spoke to the headphones thing. I'm right there with you. I played the first, hour of the game, and then I put it down because I was busy and had to do things. And I was listening to people on Twitter talking about the sound design. I think in particular, Marty Sleva from IGN was talking about how you need to play the game with headphones. So post the first hour with headphones. I played with headphones, post the first hour. And that concussion machine part of the game with headphones on was really good. I mean, that's probably the most into the game I was. And I died 3 or 4 times during that sequence. Mm-hmm. I would tell you, I'd ask you this. Inside is probably the best platformer so far in 2016. If I was to say that, would you immediately disagree?
Well, I honestly have nothing to compare it to for 2016. So, I mean, it's the best that I've played, at least.
Yeah, my immediate thought was maybe Ratchet, but Ratchet is not necessarily a platformer.
I wouldn't really put this in Ratchet in the same
category. Exactly. And if you remove that, I absolutely think this is the best platformer I've played this year. And I love platformers, and I think every video gamer does. Even if you are, mostly sports fan, mostly a shooter. I mean, this whole industry was built on platformers. So, even if something like that interests you at the very core, I would tell you to give this game a whirl. And the whole $20 thing is just, seems like people whine about everything. They whine about when games are free and then they ask you for $1. They whine about games that are $60 and give you 200 hours, and they whine if games are $20, give you 5 hours. The game is great, especially if you play through to the second ending. Like if you go and get all of the orbs and get to the second ending and do the puzzle and everything, I mean, there's a lot of game here to be had for the value for $20. I mean, you can play this.
let me just talk about getting those orbs, because naturally through the game, I think I got about 6 or 7 of them. So I was really close to getting all of them. So what I did is I did go, after I completed the game, I went and there was a walkthrough on how to get the achievements, because I wouldn't be able to find half these things naturally. I just wouldn't look for them where they were. But it is really cool to find, that they put effort and thought into these things that you may never see, that you may never, come across naturally or find it, and that they were actually kind of other little puzzles onto themselves to get each one of those, because there is one, which I did find naturally, where it was underneath the water, and then you come back up, and then there's 2 guys that you have to control to get it. Did you find that one by chance?
Keep talking on that one. I can't tell you.
So it's after you get the submarine, you come back up, and then you have a mind control thing, and there's a guy that runs around, and then there's another mind control thing that he has to get onto to control another guy to actually open it.
I got that one.
That was a really well done puzzle.
The one that I was most excited about was when you're doing the puzzle where you got to get like the 22 people together on the platform. Mm-hmm. There was the one where you could rip open the wall, or like the platform, like there was like these wood planks. And if you were just getting the drones and the bodies together, you probably would have just jumped right over it, because you climb up it before, because you're not strong enough to rip it open. Mm-hmm. And actually, I think if you get to that point without the drone, I don't even think you can even try.
No,
I think
you just kind of climb it.
Yeah, you just climb up it. But when you come back with the drones, like if you're just racing, you just jump and you just completely miss it. I actually got that one on my first try, I think because I had opened something before. And when I saw the secret ending and how it all comes together, I was actually really proud that I got that one. I was like, well, I'm not going to go do these other ones, but I'm glad I got that one. Mm-hmm. I felt very accomplished.
Yeah, I got that one naturally too, because like you, when I first saw that, I tried to rip it open, and I was like, huh.
Yeah.
I feel like I could open this if I had like one of those drone guys, and then lo and behold, you go get them and you come back with them. And so I opened it up right away and got that one too. They're really well placed. They're really cool. They're not obtuse. I like the achievements in this because there's a lot of times where
they're
achievements, they're just they're attainable. They're another part of the storytelling, and the description of them is actually really cool too. I don't know if you saw the title of the achievement, and then the description also kind of tells a story about what you just like pulled together as one of them, and just some interesting titles that they use for them. It wasn't like run 15 meters or do this or do that or control 17 guys. Those are fine, but these actually had an impact to the story. It went hand in hand with the game that you were playing.
Yeah, I like that.
And it felt good.
I don't remember which one what it was, but I remember noticing something like that when you pop out of the submarine and you're about to go on shore, but if you go the other way, you can like jump up the ladder and then climb up the ladder and look at the glass, and then there's one up there, if that makes any sense. if you're recalling that one. That was probably I think the last one that I got naturally, maybe. And that one actually had a title, and I don't know it. Again, I played it a month ago, but that one had a title that you just jarred my memory, where I was like, oh, that's kind of neat. That plays into the game. I'm by no way an achievement hunter, but I do like, I really like that you can be awarded an achievement just for kind of playing the game without having to, all right, now replay this game 8 times, or, just sit here and destroy people for an hour, and then we'll give you this achievement. I like when achievements are built into the gameplay or into the narrative, not where they just give them to you, but like if you venture off the beaten path, like here's the little reward. Those are the ones that mean the most to me. And for Inside's case, I was really happy with the, 500 or 600 gamer score points I was able to pull out of it, because I felt like I earned them, because I was exploring, which I definitely enjoyed.
And it's very much like Limbo. It was in Limbo, there was these little secrets and things you could find that if you went over them, that gave you the achievement there. So it was very much the same vein as the achievements in Limbo. I can't remember I don't think I got all of them in Limbo, but I do remember like at the very beginning of Limbo, if you go left, there's a little thing there, and if you get it, it pops an achievement. And it's like, this is not the way, or something like that. So it's really cool. I say Limbo is a great experience. It's definitely worth $20. It's a talking piece that you can talk with friends about it, that play games too, and just kind of get their opinions. Did I say Inside? I meant Limbo.
You said Limbo.
I meant Inside. Sorry, I meant Inside.
I just wanted to clarify. I didn't know if you were actually talking about Limbo or not.
Well, both. Honestly, if you haven't played Limbo, it's great. But I would say play Inside first. If you like what happens with Inside, you can go back and play Limbo. Limbo still looks great. Limbo is backwards compatible on Xbox One, so you can play it on the same console. I think you can play both of them on PlayStation 4 as well.
Yep.
But it's worth the $20. It's worth the time. Like I said, I think I got 100 gamers or 1,000 gamer score within 4 hours, and the storytelling is fine, and the gameplay mechanics are excellent, and it doesn't hold your hand at all, and it's really well done. It's a great put together game. It looks fantastic, and the sound is just really good. If you do play it, make sure you have a decent set of headphones. I'd recommend like over-the-ear headphones because they're the best. But it's just such an awesome experience that I think is definitely worth it. That being said, I would give this game like a 9 out of 10, like a 90%. The only thing that killed it for me a little bit is that ending, which is just really bizarre and just felt so out of place and out of context with the rest of the story, with what they were telling. So I'm a little more favorable towards it than maybe you are, Donnie, but still a little put off by that ending.
I mean, and again, just to reiterate, I really, really loved the game. I really did. I felt for the 4-hour experience, it was tight, it was compact. You got in, you got out. I don't think it dragged on at any given point. I thought the sound design was amazing. The graphics are truly beautiful to look at. There's a lot of polish here. The way the world interacts with the player and the avatar and the way the other characters act, like when you're the blob and people are running around, they're falling over tables and trash cans are getting knocked over. There's a lot. You can tell that somebody probably worked on those scenes for days. They just kept going. Well, what else can we do? Like there's trash that falls on the floor. The puzzle design is genius. The one thing inside that I really enjoy about it is the controls are simple. You go left, right, you get jump. Left, right, jump button. It's like a Mario game, but these puzzles are way beyond. They're very complex if you compare them to the amount of controls that you have at your disposal. Now, there are mechanics that those controls give you. Like you can pick up boxes, you can move crates, you can jump on ropes, but still the puzzles, without being incredibly difficult, like this is not like a Zelda thing. You're not going to get trumped, I don't think, at all in this game. Like you can go to a guide if you feel like you need it, but I don't feel like anybody would need a guide if you really spend enough time exploring the space around you. I think you'll find your way. Nothing really stumped me to the point where I felt like I needed outside help. But that said, I mean, for those controls, for what they are given in the game, that's really quite extraordinary that they made something that made me at least think so, not hard, but so deeply about what was going on for a game style that was just left, right, jump button. I thought was very interesting, and to be rewarded and propped up. The ending and the whole story part definitely took away from me. I also felt like, as much as I really enjoyed the puzzles, just the whole adventure, like I said, the further away from it, the more and more or less that I think about the experience. Also, I jumped into it after all the reviews hit and everybody, just clamored over it. So I will say I came in with maybe, higher expectations than many thought. If I had played this game, hadn't probably no, preconceived notions, maybe I would have been a lot higher on it. Halfway through the game, I was going to go on our podcast the following week and just talk about how it's the best game that I've ever played. And then when I finished it, I was like, maybe not so much. But again, I loved it. I stand by my 8 out of 10. I think it's great. I think for the price and everything it offers, great value, great polish, good game. It's not flawless. There are things there. I also don't think it's for everybody. That's another thing. Normally if you start talking about review scales, you start going to that 10 to 10 range. I think if you give a 10 to a game, it's a game that appeals to everyone, not just fans of that series. I definitely feel like if you are a fan of Limbo, you're going to love this game. If you didn't love Limbo, you're going to be a little harder on this game. I particularly didn't love Limbo. I liked it, but I didn't love it. So,
good thoughts.
All right, folks. Well, there's your discussion on Inside, the Xbox One platformer coming soon to PlayStation 4. It's available on Steam and PCs as well. Let us know what you think in the comments, in the forums. And remember, never stop gaming.